Hello, Topcoder community. Welcome to another education webinar. This is Algorithm Week. So joining us today is Anatoly, sorry if I screw that up. You might know him better as Gorbanov, and Tim K, who pretty much leads all of our algorithm competitions. He's kind of like the brains behind the operation. Today, they are going to present to you how to compete in an SRM. This is a YouTube live video, so feel free to chat in the chat window, ask questions, and we will ask those questions to the presenters as they come up. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm now going to turn it over to Tim and Gorbanov. Guys?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world.
So I think I will start by introducing you to a Java Applet Arena, which is the tool that most of SRM competitors use when they are competing in these algorithm competitions. It has some issues with loading, with initial loading, and if you are unlucky and if you are using Java 8, then you will face this problem. That's why I recommend you to use 7th version of Java when you launch the Applet Arena, or if you would like to use it at all. And first, I will point out the main reason why I would recommend you to use Java Arena and not the web version of Arena, which is available at Topcoder website. When you click to the SRM link, I will share my screen basically so that you know what I'm talking about. Moment.
All right, we see me.
You see you. We see
yeah,
you.
I think.
Okay, I'm trying to drag my another browser to this screen now,
all
which
right.
is quite hard with a touchpad. Let's see.
Yeah, now you see a touchpad, right?
Yes, I wasn't able to bring my mouse here. Okay, here we are.
There we go.
I have already logged in into Topcoder, and well, the default way of competing in single round match now is to go to competitive programming, and we have this brand new web arena which loads when you click on this competitive programming link. But I'm not very satisfied with it, and that's why I use and recommend you to use Java Arena, which is old, but it's still supported. And as we heard from Tim on one of the previous sessions, video sessions, he also recommends to use this old Java Arena, which I will show you how to launch. Is it right, Tim, by the way, that you are recommending to use old Java
I
Arena?
would absolutely recommend it. The reality is, while the web-based arena is kind of the new hotness, it hasn't been around for as long. It has some, to be perfectly blunt, some shortcomings. Whereas the Applet Arena, although it looks a little bit dated, it may not be quite as new and flashy. It was around for a much longer time and really had a whole lot more development gone into it, and was really well refined over that period of time. So it does a lot of things really, really well, and I would say that's definitely my preference.
Yes, and most important from my point of view is that this new web arena doesn't support any plugins, whilst the Applet Arena, the old one, does support plugins, and plugins are very helpful when it comes to speed coding. And in a single run match, it's crucial to have your code run, have your solution written quickly. So I go to, instead of competitive programming, I go to learn competitive programming. And then I click launch Applet Arena. Of course, you need to have Java installed first. And I do this by going to Java archive. Something like this. I think it will work. I agree. Yes, I do. So basically, depending on your system, one of these should help you to launch the old good Java Arena. Once you have it installed, the Java I mean, then you need to configure it a little bit in Windows at least. If you are on Windows, then you go to Control Panel, and here we have Java. And I need to set security just to high instead of very high. And additionally, on this computer, at least I see that I have arena.topcoder.com, topcoder.com, and www.topcoder.com added to exception list, and the same with HTTPS. I think I might post it to the chat later on, if we need it, of course. Do we need it? Because otherwise the Arena might not start.
Right. No, yeah, we'll post it in the video description for people to see it later.
I'm not sure I can increase this green box, but I'll just type in the chat and manually.
Yeah, you can do that. We'll do that later. We'll do that later.
We'll do that later. Oh, okay,
yeah, no problem.
Good. No problem. So we continue. Let's assume we have installed Java and set up the security settings correctly, so we can now launch our Applet Arena from the Learn Competitive Programming tab of the site. Maybe I'm talking about something trivial, but at least I have seen some competitors facing troubles with this on the forums and elsewhere.
Yeah, no,
that's
I think
why
this is
I'm talking
perfect.
about.
I think this is actually very important. It's not trivial at all.
Right. And especially this is, we're learning about Topcoder. We're learning about all different, of our tracks. So, I could be a new person that's just trying this for the first time. So this is good for them to know.
Yeah, so if you want to compete in algorithm competitions and you're new to Topcoder, I absolutely agree that this is the easiest way to get into it, is to see this video, to watch this video. So I present it with login screen. I enter my Topcoder credentials. And in case I'm under some firewalls or whatever, I can use tunnels. Which one will work for you? I don't know, but I just use direct here. Go or enter. And the important part here is active contests, of course. And we have this Education Week SRM prepared by team. The first thing I do when I enter an arena to participate in SRM is I am checking the exact timings of the SRM, because all these time zones are weird and we need to handle them. So I go to schedule and see these SRM start in my local time zone, EEST, Eastern European. It starts in 7 p.m. for me. That's about 40 minutes from now, so we have some more time to set up our environment. And yes, registration for the SRM ends, I think, 5 minutes before the round start. Is it right, Tim?
Yes, the registration generally will close 5 minutes before coding starts. So it is essential to make sure you get registered as soon as possible.
Yes, so I will do exactly this right at this moment. Register. I need to read the rules. Today they are quite short, but usually you can get some useful information out of them. This is an unrated match. Okay, I agree, let's say. And the second thing I do after I registered, I check that my name appears in the registrant list. Here we have it. Just to double check if everything went smoothly. So let's try some practice problems which basically emulate the ongoing SRM to some extent. If you have some time before a match and would like to fill it with something, then you'd better go to practice and use some old SRM. I use div2 usually because I'm not so talented and I'm just barely in div1, usually solving 0-1 problem there.
Oh, you're being modest.
So for practice, I prefer div2 problems. And yes, here we have an interface which is very similar to what we will have during the real match. And first thing before the match, it's usually needed to check the point values for the tasks. And before match started, you can check how much points each of the 3 tasks it has, how much points each task costs. So here we have in this concrete SRM 270. We have 20, 250, 600, and 900 points. So let's start with the second task. I don't know why. Just to check that everything goes smoothly. So here I have already plugin enabled, but let's select the standard editor first. So here we have the problem statement and we can read it, of course. I won't do it for now. I will focus on the coding area we have here. And basically, in each task on Topcoder singular match, you are asked to write some class in your language of choice, which are currently Java, C++, C#, VB, or Python. No other language is allowed currently. So usually folks use Java or C++, but it doesn't matter. You can choose any other of this list. I personally use Java right now. So the structure of the solution looks like this. You need to define this class with this method, and this method should return an int in this case, and it takes 2 parameters. So I will sketch this solution in the default editor first. Yes, and very important thing is that your class must be public, and here it is written explicitly about the method that it should be public, but the class should be public as well in all the languages except C++, where there is no public thing for classes.
And I think it's also important to note that I believe once you open up the problem to look at it, that's when the time starts. And so, you know, you do see that this
Yes,
is a
that's correct.
600-point problem, but you're never going to get 600 points for the problem. It all depends on how fast you solve it. And then as the points go down, right?
I think I'll cover it a little bit later, but you are totally right.
Okay.
The more time you spend on the problem, the less points you get in case your solution is correct and passes the tests of the problem setter who prepared the task. So I will just return some nonsense right now. Just to make it compilable, and how to drag it. And I will compile and test it. My code compiled successfully, which means that technical part of it is correct. I mean, the signatures of class and method are right, but it doesn't check that the return value and the calculation is right at this point. So I can test now on the example cases, which are seven, starting from 0. 7 example cases are provided, and I will just batch test, which is a new functionality. And I have some false, the correct example false, which means that my solution obviously doesn't work even on examples. So sometimes wrong solution can work on example cases. And it's usually the case for some non-trivial but wrong solutions. So now it's the time to actually code maybe this, or will we code it? It's quite a long statement. No, I think I will just show how to do the same but faster. I mean, prepare this signature. And for it to work, I will show you that we have an options editor here. And I have KVGedit installed in addition to standard editor, which I shown you previously. What this KVG editor does is it allows to generate the code, the code template. It also generates code that tests your code locally on example cases, and it obviously allows you to run this code locally on your machine from your integrated development environment ID, and without the need to use this oldish but good Topcoder arena when you just solve the task. So, for instance, this arena doesn't support debugging, which is sometimes necessary for some longer and more expensive tasks. So how do I install this editor? I can Google it. I don't remember the exact URL, so yes, and here it is. You can read the instruction, and there was a download link somewhere here. Yeah, you can download it and put somewhere.
This should work on a Mac too, or is it just Windows only?
Yes, it's Java. It's
okay.
pure Java, and I think it should work on Mac on Linux as well.
Okay, great.
So it went to my downloads folder. I just cut it and go to somewhere else. Let's put it into folder called Topcoder. Or no, it is spells. Topcoder, only T is uppercase. So then we need to link this Cabbage editor into our arena. By default, when you launch the arena, there is no Cabbage editor, of course, installed, so I will emulate this situation. I will delete it, and once again, I go to Options and Editor to enable it, and I click Add Name, some name for it. It's whatever you want. I type Cabbage. Entry point is specified on the documentation of the Cabbage editor. I think it was specified, but I cannot see it right now. Oh, documentation is here. Excellent. Yes, here it is, install Cabbage edit, and we need to enter entry point cabbage.cabbageedit. Easy.
Fun fact for everyone listening, it's actually pronounced Kowigi. The
Kowigi.
hard G. Yeah.
Kowigi, okay.
Kowigi was a member who doesn't really participate now. He's from a while back, but he clarified that on the forums like a decade ago.
Yes, that's true, but he doesn't participate, but we still use his plugin.
It still remains one of the best plugins that's ever been put together.
So we need to get the class path to the jar file I have just downloaded, and it's somewhere under my C drive, Topcoder, and this file. Is it working? I can set the standard editor as the default right now. And next step is to configure this plugin. I click on it and configure. So what do we need to configure? Here I already have a path to where the Kavigi will store its source, my source code is. So because of my system already had this Kavigi editor, I still have this setting saved, so I will delete it, and that's how it usually looks like when you first install it. But you can override it, of course, and go to our new folder, C Topcoder. And let's create folder named Java. And let's create folder named SRC, because I will use NetBeans in order to develop locally the solution to these SRM problems. Okay, so actually here we go all the source files that Kavigi editor will generate. In case you use multiple programming languages and switch between them during the match, then you can specify where the source files for each language will go. But as long as we use only Java here, in this example, then I won't focus on it right now. So the next thing is to point Kavigi editor how to generate the code for any problem, for any task on a Topcoder single arm match. So here it states that template to override is this, but it's me who added this template. So if you want to set up it initially, it's just empty when you first install this Kavigi editor. So I will try to show you how to extract some template from Kavigi. I will just open this as a zip archive. Sorry, I have Latvian locale here. And go to RC maybe, templates, and here we have the templates that they provided for us. I will use them only for demonstration because there are some wildcards or how to call them properly, placeholders that they use in their code generation engine. So I have extracted them, hopefully. Yes, and now we have these templates. I can open it just to look what it is. So that's how the default Java template looks like for Kavigi Edit. You see they use class name, return type, method name, and param list, and set correct, and testing code also. I don't like this. I will type something else. I will use standard Java racing scheme. Let's say this is what I want. Now let's point this plugin to use this template. Why it didn't appear here? See Topcoder. See Topcoder. Actually, that's a good question why it didn't appear here. Let's rename it. Wow, what's it? Actually, I can't find it right now. But maybe I can type it manually. Hopefully, I can type just C Topcoder. Like this. Or maybe I won't get and I will rename it back. So let's write. Okay. Save it. And finally go to solve our task.
Just to jump in, it's worth noting that a lot of the setup for the editors and stuff like that is something that you would do offline when you're practicing, so that you were already ready to go well before you actually started competing.
Yes, that's true. That's why we started this video before
just
this.
so folks don't get the sense that they would have to do this during the contest or something, because obviously that would not be a way to do well in the contest.
Okay, so now I can select Kavigi, and I need to double click here. So you can see that it generated some code for the easiest task, and actually I can save it now. And guess where the code will go? I think it should go to the Java folder in SRC. Yes, here we have it. And now I can edit it in whichever editor I have in my mind. Like, for instance, I prefer the NetBeans. You can use anything. So I will create a project for our Topcoder environment, and I guess it will be this. Java open, and let's call it Topcoder. The source, but it's quite ID specific. I'll just add SRC folder as a source folder so that it finds these generated files and finish. So we have our project, we have an ID, we have a source file that was generated for us. So we can start right away solving this easy task. And for that we go back to here, read the statement. I haven't read it yet. Steve would like to buy a new car. He isn't wealthy, so he would prefer a reasonably cheap car. The only problem is that the quality of the cheapest car is, let's say, questionable. Thus, Steve decided to make a list of car prices and to buy a car with the third lowest price. You will be given an in prices. The same price may occur multiple times in prices, but it should count only once in the order of available prices. In example 1, for further clarifications, write a function that returns the third lowest price in this list. Less than 3 different car, you can should return -1. What is example 1 then? Example 1 is the second example, actually. So we see that there are some duplicates in this array, and it should ignore these duplicates. So how can we handle it? Any ideas? If no, then I will just type some mess in this editor and see if it works. So basically we need third lowest price, ignoring duplicates, or third lowest element. How can we do it more elegant in Java? The straightforward solution is just sort array and walk through it and count items, and don't count them if the current item is the same as the previous. I think I will do exactly this.
Right, that would make sense. You would sort the prices, and then you'd have to. Looks like you're crawling through the list.
I think in Python it's doable, much more elegant. I will just show how can I solve it there.
As a free tip for anybody who might be competing trying to do a problem like this, what you worked out in your mind kind of thinking about the problem before you started typing is probably the single best thing you can do to perform better. Take a little bit of time and think about how to solve the problem before you just start banging on the keyboard.
Yes, that's exactly true. But for the simplest problems, if you are, let's say, more or less experienced with Topcoder, then it's very baddest way is to go straight to coding. Of course.
Well, then the process of thinking about the problem kind of happens as soon as you start typing.
Yeah. So I need the short element, but as long as we count from 0, I think. Okay, let's go. Let's type it 3 to be more clear. Something like this should work. And I type F6 to launch the solution generated by KVGedit and populated by me. I select main class, see what happens. Run. You are a stud, at least on example cases. Excellent.
Okay, so you can actually test it on
some real examples.
On some real examples. It's using the examples in the problem?
Yes, it's generating cool. The source code of this class by populating the main with launching of this method with some values that are taken from examples. And it obviously uses some Topcoder API, which is now perhaps deprecated or no, Tim. So yeah, basically it's possible to run on examples from within the IDE. However, there are some problems like double precision is one of them, which was here from SimSages. So for instance, if your method should return double, then sometimes this KVGedit doesn't count your result as correct, even if it is correct. There are the use cases, these new type of problems which require you to return not some unique value, but rather some value that is acceptable. Let's say you should generate a two-dimensional array which satisfies some requirements, but the solution is not unique, or it might be not unique. This is a new kind of problem, and this KVG will not handle them properly, unfortunately. For that, you need to launch the solution from within the Topcoder arena. And as you can see now, there is no synchronization between this editor and my IDE, so I need to do it manually by clicking load here. And yeah, here we have it. This comment about the plugin. So I can compile and yes?
So what about, this is for some of the new people too, because honestly, when I first started with this, I wasn't sure the type of libraries that you can use. Is it just like the classic, util libraries that are allowed, or?
Yes, I think some subset of Java libraries.
Basically, it's anything from the kind of the standard install of the language. So in the case of Java, that's going to be all of your standard Java libraries. In the case of C#, that's going to be basically everything in your system library. One thing worth noting, though, is that our system will intentionally disclude access to some of those functions. In particular, anything that attempts to do disk or network access will not work because there should be no reason for you to do any of that.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, so let's launch our solution on the Topcoder environment, because sometimes running example cases on the local machine doesn't mean that they will run as well in the Topcoder machine, for instance, because of compiler differences or stuff like that. So I recompile it and do batch test. Which is quite neat. Correct example, true, 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 true. At this point, I would suggest you to launch some custom test by clicking create. And let's think about some corner cases like having just 2 elements in this array. Or was it covered by the examples? I think it was. Let's see the examples first. Yeah, we had 1 element in an array. Can we have 0 elements? No, we have between 1 and 50. Okay, let's try with 2 elements. Let's see, it works still. Return value -1, and yes, in case of custom test cases, it doesn't tell if this is correct or not correct value. It just says that you returned -1. Of course, if you will throw an exception or something, then you will see it. But it's better to check manually what is the correct value for that case we provided. And in our case, -1 is the correct value because we have less than 3 elements. Wait, what if we have exactly 3 elements? And maybe two. Okay. 12.
Yeah.
Is it correct? Let's check it. We had 1, 2, and 12. 12 is the third value.
The third
Let's
one.
add the fourth value, which will be equal to one of these elements. Let's say 2. Maybe our algorithm will fail. Now the correct example result is still 12.
Yep.
Obviously. And it's still 12.
Great.
Good.
So, you know, it's great. We're actually looking in the chat now, and so I was asking how people would solve this issue as you were solving it. And so someone says to use a linked list, and then you put your solution out there, and he's very impressed. He says, your solution amazed me. I thought I would just tell you that.
Oh, how do you get the messages from the chat, by the way?
Oh, yeah. So it's on our YouTube page. But
oh,
yeah,
okay. I just see a message from Tim right now.
Yeah.
But it's all right.
I'll relay them to you. No, but it was a compliment to your solution.
Thank you. Thank you. So now the most important thing is to submit as soon as possible, so we get as much points as we can. Yes, submitting 202 points. Not so nice for div2, easy. But anyway, let's check how other people did. And yeah, we have 6 more minutes before the actual single round match starts. So let's double check that we have registered.
Yep, registration will be ending for that in about 30 seconds.
Yeah, so everyone who is still there and not registered, please do so if you want to participate. Yeah,
Do
I'm
note that
registered.
a regular single round match goes substantially longer than the demo one I put up today. I just put up the demo one for the sake of being able to go through it quickly so everyone can get a chance to see how it works.
Okay, so let's run the system test first. Let's assume that we managed to solve only the easy problem on this match. And I mean to submit it And in practice rooms, there is such a thing like run system tests. And now it's a moment of truth for me. Yes, it passed, hopefully. Good. So now let's check how other folks did. And yeah, there are some high scores.
Jeez.
There are some high scores.
Is that even possible to get 249.98 out of 250?
As long as this is practice room, then they can have just solved it during the match or after the match and just copy paste in the code.
Oh, that's true. That's not fun.
And submit it. Yeah, that's not fun, but anyway. Who cares? Close it and let's go to the lobbies. Chat room 1. This is the default chat room for the Topcoder Arena. I can demonstrate briefly how to work with it, and the most important thing you can do in chat is to contact admins in case you have some considerations.
If you want to actually demonstrate that, I can respond to you.
Oh, that's very good. And I type admins, I guess with S at the end, colon, and then hey team, I think the problem the 50 problem solvable. Do you get such messages, by the way? Such
All the time.
Messages? All the time. Okay, excellent. But indeed, there are some cases during the match when some unexpected things happen, and then you should consider. Oh, I got a reply. Yeah, that's true.
That's usually what our replies will look like, particularly if we get a question like that. A really good question to ask is one that's very specific and can be answered with a yes or no. For instance, if you are reading over the examples and you say, it looks like the second example might have an error in the description. It should say returns 3 rather than returns 2. Then we can say, oh, yes, you're correct. That was a mistake. Or no, it's correct as it's written. Generally, if we get open-ended questions like, I don't understand the question, or I think it's wrong, we can't really answer that too well because anything we say in response is going to give away parts of the problem that you're really supposed to figure out for yourself as part of the contest.
So normally you just answer yes, no, or
we try
I cannot answer this question.
Exactly. Usually we try to answer with yes, no, or if it's a very, very specific closed-ended question, like what if this is the input? The constraints don't say we can't have that, but it's not clear what that should be. We'll try our best to at least lead you to how to get the correct answer. Say, please see the examples. This is covered there, or please reread the part of the problem where it's explaining what the output should be.
Okay, so now it's time to enter the contests. As you can see, register button is gray now, and the enter button is available. So I will just go to the so-called room where the things in the single round match happen. As you can see, I'm in room 1, and you can see all the rooms somewhere in this menu, rooms. You can enter another room, of course, if you want to see how other people are assigned to the rooms. Here we see the room number 2 participants. But usually it's not needed during the match, so I go to my room back. Oh, coding phase is starting for. Would you like to go to my room? Yes. So Usually I don't open the task immediately because there are some latency when the match starts because of lots of people opening it. And I spend some 10 seconds before I open it, but it's just a minor thing. So now I can open it like I usually do. So let's try to solve this task first. By the way, we are in division 1 or 2? That's the main question.
So for this demonstration match, I only did it with a single division. They're all Division 2 level, fairly easy problems. And they all come from contests that have happened in the last few weeks.
Okay, so let's try to read this statement again. We are given ints and k and an array grid. Cat has constructed a 2D matrix of integers with dimensions n by n. Each element of the matrix is between O and k minus 1 inclusive. You are given a matrix in a format in the int grid. Grid has exactly n squared elements. The value of grid corresponds. Okay. So we have basically this two-dimensional matrix flattened to one-dimensional array, as I understand. You'd like to check if each row and column has exactly k distinct integers. If this isn't the case, return the string good, otherwise return bad. Not that the return value is case sensitive. So the question is here. You would like to check if each row and column has exactly k distinct integers. How can we check it? And by the way, do we need to check it fast? N will be small, k will be small as well. Grid will contain exactly n squared integers, and each element will be okay. Example. The first thing to check if you are not sure you understood the problem statement correctly is to check the examples, because they provide the correct answers for some simple cases, and it helps a lot in understanding the task. For instance, here you can see that you have a one-dimensional array, but it's formatted as if it was two-dimensional array. And here's some explanation. So we return good in this case because rows and columns have distinct integers from 0 to k minus 1. By the way, why do we need k?
Would you like me to answer that for you, or do you want me to let you puzzle through it?
Give you the.
You can participate in the discussion, but because now we have just fun match. But in general, it's not allowed to talk to anyone during the SRM.
Yes.
So,
good point.
Of course, I can type it into a chat for admins. So, Tim, can you help me? And let's see what happens. Don't do it. Okay, I won't do it. Somebody is opening 500 problem already. Okay.
Nice.
We are far behind. So let's determine why do we need k. You would like to check if each row and column has exactly k distinct integers. Okay, let me try to determine it. Okay, k is lower than or equal to n, so we have an n by n matrix. Okay, let's check some example. Maybe they have exactly the situation where k isn't equal to n. For instance, second example also has 3 equal to n and k. And the third example, number 2, has n equal 5 and k equal 2. So it has multiple zeros and some ones. Wait, I didn't understand the task indeed. Each element of matrix is between inclusive. You are given the 2D matrix in a special format. The value correspond to the entry or all. We'd like to check as exactly k distinct integers. Oh, looks like I've got it. So we need to determine the amount of distinct integers in this row. In this case, this is 2, because 0 are duplicated and 1 is not duplicated, but even if it were 1 here, for instance, instead of 0, then we were still fine. But once we get some third number, like 4 here, let's say, then we are not satisfied with this row anymore. I think that's the clue. So what is needed is to start coding now. Or let's just check some more examples. 5, 3, 5 by 5 matrix. K equals 3. Okay, 3 distinct numbers in each row and in each column. And here we have 4 distinct numbers. Oh, each element of grid will be between O and K minus 1, inclusive. Am I missing something, or it simplifies the task greatly? Let's look if there is some bad example. In this case, the grid is not good because the last column only has 2 distinct integers. Oh yeah, so each element of the grid. So we never have more different elements than we can have, or don't we? Why this is bad? Okay, let's use this last example to validate our solution later on. So now I switch to the KVG editor and save the code. Save. ID. And I set the launching project, launching class. And what I would like to do is to validate each row and each column in separate for loops and check if they have exactly k different elements. First, I will check rows. So for that, I will need to iterate over each row. import arrays again. Or don't we have this? Oh, I have Boolean, so I need to fill it with false, of course. So then I will go through the initial row and set the used array to true where we have some value with this number. Okay. Quite simple. Okay, in C++ we could have used accumulate from algorithm library, but here in Java we just need to iterate over the used array again and calculate that we have used exactly k values. Now we need to check the columns. The easiest way is to copy paste it, but maybe, and yeah, of course we need to check if equal to k and just return bad.
So just so I don't distract Anatoly, Tim, is time a factor, like as far as how fast your code runs? Like, you know.
It can be. Typically, the time limit is that your code has to run in 2 seconds or less, although there are some cases where we use custom time limits. Generally speaking, what you're going to find is the easier problems are not likely to be affected by time as much as the harder problems. Experienced coders can give you a pretty good idea of exactly how many operations you can accomplish in the given time, but when you start to get to problems where you've got very long lists of numbers or strings to work with and have to do something quite complicated on them, then time does become a real consideration. And the kind of first naive solution that comes to you oftentimes will not work in time.
I see. I'm sure it's a great way, I guess, if people are practicing for interviews, because they look at that kind of stuff too, right? If the big O, O notation, how
in some cases the big O performance of things will absolutely matter. As for whether that comes up in interviews or not, it depends a lot on where you're interviewing.
Yeah.
Oftentimes an ability to talk through that kind of stuff and just demonstrate that you're at least understanding of the issues is sufficient. I don't want to speak for any company or companies about what they do or don't look for, but yeah, that sometimes that can come up.
I will just copy paste this for now. See if I have the correct understanding of the task. Check the columns. And we need, for columns, we need the opposite, I think. Let's launch it. I must start again, but I'm not sure this is a neat code because I used copy paste at least once, but for Topcoder it doesn't matter. The thing that matters is that I don't violate unused code rule. I mean, which code is counted doesn't use it? It's commands I think, and print statements. That's pretty much the majority of things that are covered by unused code rule. And in case you have more than 30% of unused code in your solution, then you will be punished for this. Am I right, Tim?
That is correct. It's actually rare that that's really an issue. And to be fair, it is possible that you might do that and we may not catch it. We do obviously rely a lot on member reporting for that kind of thing. But generally speaking, you do not want to have large blocks of unused code because you could get hit by that. And it's also kind of really bad sportsmanship to your competitors to make code that's harder to read and not really being used.
Yeah, so basically it's needed for the challenge phase, which happens after the coding phase ends and when nobody can submit the solution anymore. So, okay, I have
On
just
that
made...
note, you've got about 3 minutes left in coding phase for this contest.
Okay, I need to submit
Then
this
we'll
up.
begin.
I just load it and compile and submit, I think, with batch test. Good, true, bad, true. Okay, fine. Batch test. Why? I mean, submit, of course. And we have 97 points. Yoo-hoo, and 2 minutes to go. Usually it's bad to submit on the last seconds, but anyway. Let's see what others did, because I doubt I will be able to solve any more tasks today in this match. So let's open the summary. I'm on the 5th place and some folks have solved this task much faster than me, which is good. And this means that we may still get some more points in case our solution, of course, works, which will be determined after this contest is over. And we can get more points on the challenge phase. For that, we need to prepare some tricky cases and, of course, test our own solution on them first. So I will open the task again. Let's see which cases are not covered by the examples, because everybody has the examples available and they can test against them, but no, not everybody has some corner cases in their mind. Good. Okay, maybe there will be some timeouts. We need to prepare the maximum case at least. So how do we do this? I would prefer to create another class here. And just generate some correct but rather big test case. How can we do it? Let's say by just putting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the first row, then some shift it by 1 array in the second row, shifted by 1 array of the first row in the second row, and so on. I think it will be a correct test case, but let's see if it will help us to gain some more points. Actually, n is quite low, but n squared, which is the size of the matrix, is 50 squared, which is how much it is. I cannot calculate that fast. It's 10,000 divided by 4, which is 2.5 thousand. So the algorithm needs to be n squared to the power of 3 in order to not to pass, I think, or something. So it needs to be really weird and slow for our test case to be used, to be applicable at all. So I'm trying to catch someone on timeout. Do you have some more time for it, by the way? Intermission. Oh, 30 seconds left before the challenge phase. Actually, we don't have more time. Let's try it.
Challenge phase is going. You've got 5 minutes.
We got 5 minutes. So normally it's 15 minutes for challenge
Correct.
phase.
Again, today's is greatly reduced in length just to be able to show through this stuff easily.
Yes, but I am still trying to prepare my large test case, so let's hope I will prepare it soon. So I'm just shifting 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on permutation by 1 on each iteration, I plus j divided modulo, and I think that's what I want. Oh, I don't have comma. Okay, launch it. I can launch it faster actually by run file. Let's copy it. And there is one extra comma at the end, of course, which I need to do it manually. Okay, add some curly braces here. We have some more time? No, we don't. We need to check at least one solution. Okay, challenge phase, coding phase is ending. Okay, 2 more minutes. Let's check summary. How else I have solved it? Check this guy. What did he do? He uses a set instead of our array. Actually, set is very slow, but not that slow, so that we can challenge him. The same two arrays as we had. And a simpler check here. If t, what is t? T equals 1, t equals 0. Okay, looks good and fast enough. Let's check someone else. Maybe Python. Oh, I like this code. In range, and if I would be able to read Python, rw equals greet 1n san. What's this? Oh, they are creating a set out of row values and column values. And this less sign is very valid because we don't need to check inequality. It's enough to check just this is less than. I think this will also pass system tests. Some more solutions. Flag true. I think this will not pass unused code rel. Or will it? Tim, what do you say?
Let's see. It looks as though this code is not checking columns.
Yes, let's challenge it. Let's challenge it with our example. I totally agree that it doesn't check columns. And how did it pass the examples?
If you
maybe the examples were
yeah,
weak.
N is 2, K is 2. If you give it 0, 1, 0, 1 as your array, that should fail it.
Oh, how can I edit?
You have to create the grid, yeah.
And I use this button.
Yep.
I just try my own example, no matter. Okay, we have a little time. Oh, system failed.
Well,
okay.
that happens.
But that happens, but the challenge phase already ended.
Yes.
Of course, you need some.
You'll notice now that the contest's over, system testing will actually happen.
Yes. Let's wait for the system tests.
Generally speaking, it's pretty quick right after the contest. And you'll actually see results come up in just a moment.
Contest complete for this concrete.
Takes a few seconds for scores to update and say whether they passed or failed, but not too long.
Do we see the standings here? I go to,
there it is.
Tester. Here it is. And I go to division summary usually. And I'm the last one to pass system tests.
And sure enough, the solution that you were looking at and considering challenging did in fact fail.
Oh, it did?
Oh. It did.
Let's check.
Not surprising.
Yes, it has 0 points. Okay.
So if he had challenged successfully, what would have happened?
Then the problem would have shown as challenged, and Gorbanov would have earned 50 points for that challenge. 50,
okay.
But if I were unlucky and my challenge was validating as correct, but the solution would have returned the correct return value for it, then I will get minus 25 points. So it's a little bit tricky.
Okay.
So you don't want to just randomly challenge. You want to be sure you've got a challenge.
Actually, I do randomly challenge from time to time, and it's...
Yeah, if you think there's a high probability that somebody made a mistake, you can sometimes do that.
But not in Division 1, at least.
Sometimes there are telltale signs you can look for, but in general, yes, you don't want to. You don't want to do that. All right, I apologize, but I'm actually about to head off. I've got somewhere to be. I think this was actually pretty interesting, and I like that the timing of the match coincided perfectly with the stream that we were doing.
Yeah, this is really great. Well, thank you, both of you. Hopefully,
thank you, Gorbanov, for your efforts here. This was fantastic.
Yes, Gorbanov, well done.
I think Nick's going to close it out, but I'm going to head off. Thank you, everyone, and good luck in the next contest.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you to Tim. Thank you to Gorbanov for this awesome webinar. Really helps, you know, if you've never done this before, ways to set up your environment, ways to actually compete in an SRM. If you were to compete in one of those challenges. Very cool stuff. Very cool to see code in action. And so thank you, everybody, for joining us during Algorithm Week. And if you have any questions, feel free to post in our forums. Gorbanov, I know, is always in there. Tim's always in there. and so am I. So we'll get you the right answers. Thank you for joining us again, and we will see you next time. Bye.